Blue Apron is the #1 fresh ingredient and recipe delivery service in the country. And my favorite part is the variety and how easy the meals are to make. How about meals like cheesy chicken, black bean enchiladas with salsa verde, maple gravy smothered pork chops with stewed collard greens and sweet potatoes, spiced cauliflower and pepper with jasmine rice and cilantro yogurt sauce. Choose from a variety of new recipes each week, or let Blue Apron's culinary team surprise you. Recipes are not repeated within the year. You're never going to get bored. You can customize your recipes each week based on your preferences. Blue Apron has several delivery options, so you choose what you need and when it fits your schedule. Each meal comes with a step-by-step, easy-to-follow recipe card and pre-portioned ingredients and can be prepared in 40 minutes or less. I've done it, and if I can do it, you can. Very easy. Blue Apron's freshness guarantee promises that every ingredient in your delivery arrives ready to cook, or they'll make it right. Check out this week's menu and get $30 off your first meal with free shipping by going to blueapron.com/Mike and Mike. You're going to love how good it feels and tastes to create incredible home-cooked meals with Blue Apron, so do not wait. That's blueapron.com/Mike and Mike. Blue Apron. It's a better way to cook.
Sport Clips Haircuts Help a Hero program funds scholarships for U.S. veterans who are pursuing a college degree or vocational certification. Visit your nearest Sport Clips to learn more and donate now through November 11th.
Good morning. We are back in better than ever. Mike and Mike, presented by Progressive Insurance. Our guests on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. The final Monday in October, and here we go off a crazy college weekend, including one of the great comebacks of all time. A dramatic NFL Sunday, including just about an entire team taking a knee before playing in the game of the day. And then the night came, and has this World Series ever brought the thrills, Golick? What a game that was.
Incredible. You know, we came off of game one with Kershaw and with Keuchel at 2 hours and, 28 minutes, and we thought, all right, give us another one of those, long day of football. You know, let's watch a nice, crisp baseball game. 5 hours and 17 minutes later, that's exactly what we got.
But I'll tell you what.
Wow, unreal, though.
It was worth every second. There's a lot of people who look awful tired in this building this morning and probably all over America, but well worth it to have stayed up for that one last night. The thrills just kept on coming. The home runs just kept on coming.
Sure did.
The ball kept leaving the ballpark, and in the end, it was a 3-2 Astros lead in the World Series. We'll get you to that. Let's do off the top here, and let's just go through a couple of the other headlines. And it starts, I mentioned the Texans, and of course we'll talk at more length about what happened with them before the game and all the events stemming from the Bob McNair comments that were disclosed on Friday. But then it turned into a show between Deshaun Watson and Russell Wilson. I thought these were supposed to be two great defenses, Mike.
Absolutely ridiculous what went on. And, by the way, you have a rookie in Deshaun Watson who is playing incredibly well this year going up against this Seattle defense, which did get a pick six on him, which turned out to be a pretty important one given the score of this game. But this is the sixth time in NFL history that opposing quarterbacks threw for at least 400 yards. That's right, Deshaun Watson and Russell Wilson both throwing for over 400 yards. For those of you in the fantasy world, Deshaun Watson got you over 38 points. DeAndre Hopkins got you over 39 points. And Will Fuller got you over 32 points. It was ridiculous what was going on there. But Deshaun Watson, even in the loss, first player in NFL history, 400 yards passing, 4 passing touchdowns, and 50 rush yards. Most passing touchdowns, 19 by any player through 7 career games in NFL history. First rookie NFL history with at least 3 passing touchdowns in 4 straight games. So great game for him, but obviously Russell Wilson was fantastic. He completed a career-high 9 passes, thrown 15 or more yards down the field, plus the way they both escape to make things happen. This was a great game all around, except if you were on the defensive side of the ball, outside of the pick six for Seattle.
Yeah, and it was one of only 2 games in that later afternoon window yesterday. The other one goes to Dallas behind Zeke Elliott, who ran the ball all over the place. There's another hearing today involving Zeke Elliott, so we'll see. I think the smart money at this point says he's going to play the rest of the season. In the last couple of weeks, he's coming on strong.
Yeah, he really is. He became the 4th player in Cowboy history with 100 rushing yards and multiple rushing touchdowns in consecutive games. Only Tony Dorsett has more. Tony Dorsett, 1983, did it 3 times. Zeke Elliott, Julius Jones, Emmitt Smith have done it 2 times. Sunday was Elliott's 7th career game with 2 rushing touchdowns. Only Clinton Portis with 9 had more with multiple rushing touchdowns before his 23rd birthday, and you could see the difference. What Zeke's been going through the first 4 games, He's 21 rushes per game. Now it's almost 30. Yards per rush, 3.7. Now it's 5.0. Rushing touchdowns, 2. Now it's 4. So after those first 4 games, he's kind of getting into a groove. And I agree with you. I think he's going to be successful in wherever we are in this court thing going on, where he is going to play the rest of the year. And that'd be great news for Dallas because he is certainly rounding out right now.
Off the top.
Last night, the football game, the Steelers and the Lions, and it was Pittsburgh with a win on the road, and Juju Smith-Schuster was the big story.
Yeah, he really was. 193 receiving yards, youngest player in NFL history. He's 20 years old with over 150 receiving yards in the game. Had, the 97-yarder, was it?
Yes.
Coming right out of the end zone. It was only 2 touchdowns in the game. There was that one, and there was a Bell touchdown as well. So you have this offensive output from Pittsburgh like that. Detroit had over 400 yards, so you'd say, boy, what a bad day for the defense. But I'll say this, quick note about this game, is that Pittsburgh defense held Detroit to 5 field goals. And we look at the distance of the field goals. For 4 of them, the ball was on the 16-yard line twice, the 19-yard line once, and the 1-yard line one time. That's where the ball was snapped for the field goal. So Pittsburgh's defense, they bend a little bit, but they didn't break. They kept Detroit out of the end zone.
And Juju Smith-Schuster, of course, having the big day. That will fuel the conversation about Martavis Bryant. Do I believe they're going to trade him? Probably not.
Calls coming in, too. Calls to Pittsburgh coming in.
You saw those reports
all
over the place yesterday, and Smith-Schuster has clearly emerged as their number 2 receiving option.
Off the top.
All right, the Cavaliers stink. When did this happen? Unbelievable. The Cavs are losing to terrible teams. Last night they got blown out at home by the Knicks.
Yeah, first between the Cavs and the Warriors. It's the second time this season the Warriors and Cavs lost on the same day. It happened only 3 times all of last season. The Knicks are 3-4. As you mentioned, their 4 losses are to the Knicks, the Pelicans, the Nets, and the Magic. What do all 4 of them have in common? None of them made the playoffs last year. First time a LeBron James team has lost 3 straight games, all against teams that didn't make the playoffs the previous season since 2003 and 4 when the Cavaliers lost 4 games in a row in April. So Tyronn Lue was livid at him for losing to the Knicks, and why wouldn't you be?
Yeah, he said afterwards the loss was unacceptable.
Off the top.
Florida and Jim McElwain have parted ways. So Randy Shannon takes over as the new coach, and I'll tell you what really aggravates me about this story on top of everything else is a lot of the players said they found out about it on Twitter.
Well, this whole thing started.
That's really just hideous.
This all started going off about Twitter, about even before the game, about talking that Florida was talking to McElwain's agent about a buyout, and then Florida had to come out and deny that. Listen, this has been a kind of you want to talk, you can go ahead and talk about what's going on in the field, but there was a bad relationship with McElwain and the athletic department here after their bowl win last year. You know, McElwain had some comment about what was a commitment from the athletic department to them. And a couple of weeks ago, we talked about the death threats he and family were receiving, and they were so school was looking for some proof, and he wasn't able to really provide any of that. So, and you hope that's not true. And if it is, what losers out there doing that? But it just seemed to be a very, very bad, toxic relationship that is now over.
Yeah, and again, the only ones who sort of get stuck in the middle of this are the players. Who, again, find out their coach has been negotiating. I mean, they negotiated an exit. Yeah. This was mutual. Both sides knew about it, and yet no one decided to tell the players.
Off the top.
And then finally, a classic last night. Just one of the crazy baseball games of all time. And let's get some details on that as we go here, Mike and Mike. We'll make that off the top with us here on ESPN Radio. Brought to you by Upside.com. Low prices, great rewards, 6-star service. You deserve a better business trip with Upside.com. 5 hours and 17 minutes later, Alex Bregman had his first ever walk-off hit in the regular season or the postseason in a game that featured 7 home runs. It was a solid single that scored the game-winning run in the 10th, and the Astros take a 3-2 lead back to LA.
Amazing. Houston comes back 3 times from being 3 down, and then they have a 3-run lead. They have a 3-run lead going into the 9th inning, 12-9, and thanks in part to Yasiel Puig's 2-run shot, they tie it up and send it into extra innings before, as Greeny mentioned, the game-winning RBI single, which seems odd, knowing that all the home runs. By the way, all the home runs, most home runs we had in the regular season this year, most home runs in a postseason now with 101, and most home runs in a World Series with 22. So, a lot of talk about the ball. Is the ball a different ball?
Come on. Some of the shots that were hit last night, the shot that Puig hit
looked like a pop-up.
Looked like it was going to be a blooper. Yeah. I wondered if it would get past the shortstop. It went out of the ballpark.
So let me just throw this out there generally. If there is something a little different in the ball, do we care?
That's what I keep saying.
Yeah.
Biggio, when we asked him about it on Friday, he was like, I don't want to go there.
Right.
I don't think this is something that requires an investigation. Who would care if they juice the ball a little bit?
Pitchers, obviously.
Yeah, okay,
Justin Verlander came out and said the ball definitely feels different. He goes, for a guy that, has a baseball in his hand an awful lot, the ball feels different. I think it was Rich Hill that went the other way and said he didn't really feel any difference in the ball. But the ball's flying out of the park at a record rate this year and a record rate this postseason. So, as we've heard, I think it was Biggio or others that said the batters are swinging up now instead of down. So is that all fundamentally changed enough to have all these home runs? Or is there something with the baseball?
Well, I mean, I think it looks to me certainly like there's something with the baseball. I can't prove it, and I don't care. Once again, this isn't an accusation. It's an observation that some of these shots, some of these swings just don't look like home run swings. Yeah. And the ball is getting out of the ballpark. So one way or another, we got 7 home runs hit last night. Mike mentioned we've now set a record for most homers in a postseason and in a World Series. The Astros were the first team in World Series history with 5 different players to homer in a game last night, with Gurriel, Altuve, Springer, Correa, and McCann all going out of the ballpark. And they finish the home portion of their postseason 8-1. They only lost 1 home game in these playoffs, but they will have to win one in Los Angeles to win the championship.
Yeah, I mean, listen, you were wondering, could you get the same kind of matchup? Because remember, Kershaw threw great in Game 1. Keuchel even threw well, but, it was about Kershaw because it was the Dodgers that got the win, and neither one. Kershaw lasted into the 5th inning, gave up 6 runs in this one. Keuchel lasted into the 4th inning, gave up 4 runs, 4 strikeouts for him, only 2 for Kershaw. So they weren't what they were in Game 1, no doubt about that. Going to the bullpen, which again you would think would favor the Dodgers, and we as we've been breaking down the bullpens, but it was Houston 3-run deficits overall, 2 overcome by Houston, 1 by the Dodgers when they came back when they were down 12-9 in the 9th. So bullpen's not getting it done.
No, listen, there's some crazy numbers in this.
Yeah.
Clayton Kershaw the Dodgers had been 4-0 when Kershaw starts in this postseason. This was the first one they'd lost. We talked about how earlier in this series, having a lead going into the 9th inning, they never blew one, and they finally did. Now, how about this? They had won 113 straight games, including the playoffs, a streak that went back to April of a season ago. April 10th of 2016 was the last time they lost a game in which they led by 4 runs. So the Dodgers had every opportunity to win last night. The Astros had every opportunity to put it away before they did last night. But in the end, it all adds up to a 13-12 Astros win in 5 hours and 17 minutes. And one of the storylines here, for sure, is Clayton Kershaw, who was staked to a huge lead early.
Yep.
He's supposed to cruise. He's supposed to win that game. So all the good that he had done, I think, for his postseason reputation, at least some of that goes away. Here's Timmy Kirkchin.
The last 50 decisions that he's had with a 4-run lead, his team was 49-1. This just was not supposed to happen. We thought he had completely turned the corner here. He was on full rest. He'd only thrown 83 pitches, and for them to get to him the way that they did was just amazing. He had trouble throwing strikes at the end, and I'm just stunned. The Dodgers did not lose a game this year in which they had a 4-run lead, and they had a 4-run lead with the best pitcher on the planet in the game, and he couldn't hold it.
So what is it again about Kershaw, if we go individually there, his legacy in this? I mean,
it hurts badly.
Where are we?
If the Dodgers lose this series, then this start hurts badly because this is an opportunity to put it away. Now, here's my prediction. You tell me if you agree or disagree. I believe we will see Kershaw again in this series. I believe that we will see him let me rephrase that. If they get to Game 7, if the Dodgers win Game 6, I believe we will see Kershaw in Game 7. So I don't know that the story has been fully written.
But the only thing I'll say is when we see him in Game 7, how long will we see him for? We probably won't see him for long, so
How long did Bumgarner pitch in relief in that one? And Randy Johnson, I mean, these are like legendary moments.
Well, what did they do in games earlier in the series?
Well, they didn't have this start.
Kershaw had a great one in game one and then not a good one here. So I guess that's my point. If he can't throw, obviously, a ton in game 7, because that's what I thought as well. Is he going to get another shot? But if he does, how long will he actually be able to throw? And certainly we'll see how he can throw. But you know what? Let's get there first. The way the Astros are hitting that ball, we'll see. They already took one in L.A., so they know they can do it again.
Bumgarner in relief in Game 7 of the World Series in 2014 through 5 innings. Gave up 2 hits, did not allow a run.
Well,
that's how he made himself a legend.
That would be something if Kershaw could come in and do that. But like I said, let's pump the brakes on that. Let's see if we even get there.
Yeah, they got to get to Game 7 before we can worry about that. And the Astros, let's hear a little bit more on this here. Here's Mark Teixeira on how the Astros have put this together. It's pretty easy to say. They just swing from their heels and watch the ball fly out of the ballpark. But Teixeira had more nuanced thoughts.
We'll talk about all the home runs, but there were still some great little at-bats here during this game. Guys fighting off pitches, guys having good at-bats, finally getting walks. We'll talk about the big home runs, but baseball is still played where 9 guys get about 4 or 5 at-bats a game, and the best teams keep putting those good at-bats together outing by outing. And tonight, the Astros kept giving themselves great chances to score because of these good at-bats.
I mean, what can you say? I mean, the Dodgers have been in position like last night to where they should be where they need to be, right where they want to be. Either Kershaw on the mound or the bullpen with the lead. And we've seen both strengths of them, Kershaw with a lead and it going away, and the bullpen with a lead and it going away.
Well, look, the ball was in Kershaw's hands last night with a 4-run lead. The ball was in Kenley Jansen's hands with a lead in game 2.
Right.
And they lost both those games.
That's exactly right.
Which is something that isn't supposed to happen. So we'll see. We both picked the Astros to win this series in 6 games. There's no reason for us to change our mind now. It has been one of the strangest World Series I can ever remember, but I have a feeling it is the beginning of a trend. The top 5 hitters in the Astro lineup last night went 12 for 23 with 4 home runs and 12 RBIs.
It's just incredible. And quite honestly, again, the youth in this series, how about this? The first time in the World Series, 4 different players, 23 or younger, hit a home run. 2 for the Dodgers, Bellinger and Seager, and was it Bregman and Correa for the Astros? Bellinger's 22. The others are all 23. It's ridiculous.
A lot of young guys out there. Look, crazy game. It's been a terrific World Series. I'm sure the numbers last night will be really good. That game's on Fox last night. Pittsburgh, Detroit is on NBC.
Right.
I'll be very interested. We'll get those numbers, the television rating, towards the end of our show today. I'll be curious to see what they show.
One other stat was amazing to me. This was 5 hours and 17 minutes. So it was the second longest game by time in World Series history. You know what was the first?
I'm trying to think. Is it obvious to me? Was it last year, the Game 7?
It's ironic. Let me put it that way. It's ironic. It's ironic with the teams that are involved.
Go ahead.
The longest was also played at Minute Maid Park, Game 3, 2005 World Series, the White Sox and Astros.
Huh.
At 5 hours and 41 minutes.
I don't know why I don't remember. I remember the White Sox swept that series. I remember they had 4 good starting pitchers.
5 hours and 41 minutes in that ballpark and the Astros.
They play long games in Houston. There won't be any more games in Houston this year. Not for the baseball team. We'll see. They have to win one in L.A. to get themselves a World Series championship. We're Mike and Mike, presented by Progressive Insurance, and we'll have much more on the series as the morning continues today. Our guests on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line, that'll include Jessica Mendoza. She'll stop by to talk baseball with us later, and we got Jeff Saturday and Chris Mortensen and Ryan Clark and more talking football as we go. Speaking of football, the game of the afternoon, Texans and Seahawks in so many different ways. Now, I was very interested to see what the Texans players would do before the game, and we saw what they did, the overwhelming majority of them. It's hard to say. I saw a lot of pictures, so you're trying to count. I saw one person say 6 players didn't kneel. I saw another that said something less than 10 players didn't kneel. But you saw it now. You know what happened. You're aware of what happened with the comments in the ESPN story that we read to you on Friday morning as the moment that the story was released. And both you and I and who was sitting in the room with us, I forget who was here when we read it, whoever it was, the second we saw the inmates comment, we all said, well, this is going to be a problem. And clearly it turned into the story of the weekend.
Yeah. You know, there was part of me that's such a cliche saying, that I don't know. It didn't affect me as much as it seemed to obviously affect those players. It just didn't. It's a saying that's used a lot. You know what the meaning is. I didn't look at it as, oh my God, look at this billionaire now who's talking down to these millionaires. It didn't affect me like that. And then I started hearing they're going to be some kind of protest, and I thought, isn't this weird? I'll use the word ironic yet again. Players have knelt, people booed. They knelt yesterday, people cheered. People were cheering because they knew why they were kneeling. So they're kneeling at the same time, all the time, that people can't stand, but they kneel at the same time for the same reason that people can't stand, but they're cheering because it's for a different reason they're kneeling. To me, I don't know. I was a little like, okay, are we making a little too much of a big deal about this? So what did they show there? I mean, what went on? I mean, you heard they were going to peel the stickers off. They weren't going to do that. And then they were going to try and win. I mean, to think that they weren't, all of a sudden there was, are they going to try and stop it? They're going to try and win the game. I mean, I don't know. That was just me. You know, I maybe I'll get ripped for it. I have no idea. But to me, it wasn't that big a deal. It was a term used a lot. Me personally I knew what the meaning of it was. Employees running the show. It's not the first or last time you're going to hear that comment made. It didn't bug me that much.
Okay, it clearly did bug a lot of them.
No, it absolutely did. That's all that matters. It doesn't matter if it didn't bug me. I'm just giving you my opinion of it. I started thinking they're going to protest. Players are going to walk out of practice. I'm like, really?
I think they did. Two players at least walked out of practice.
I know they did. Yeah, on Friday.
Yeah, correct. DeAndre Hopkins.
I don't know.
I think that it is, if nothing else, I did not take it as though Bob McNair was comparing the players to inmates, either in a prison, which I think he sort of mangled the more commonly used expression, which is the inmates running the asylum.
Yeah.
But I think that it is a general sign of the total lack of respect that the owners have for the players. And I think that side of it, the fact that he would use that kind of thought about the players who were supposed to be their partners,
but they're not.
I think would have bothered me more.
But they're not.
But in the NBA, they are.
But they're not in the NFL.
Right.
They're not. And I think the NFL does look at the NBA, and in all honesty, they're jealous of that. They're certainly of the money and what's going on. And they're not partners, even though, listen, there's no league without the players. There's no doubt about that. No doubt about that. I get it. But so are we never supposed to use that saying? I mean, is that now entered the offensive saying book that we're writing in this politically correct era that we're in? That one can't say that one anymore, or everyone will, or people will protest. I don't know. It just doesn't bug me that much.
I listen, you're certainly entitled to your opinion. I understood why the players were upset about it, and I think that we might be seeing a tidal change right now in the attitude of NFL players and the way they will allow themselves to be treated, which for 100 years they've put up with being in the worst situation I could ever imagine for people who are as important as they actually are.
Agreed. Completely agree with that. What are they going to do?
Well, I mean, you're seeing it right now. I think that there is a pendulum shift in power.
I'm just going to be... What did that do? So they knelt and said they were mad at their owner. Okay, now that's fine. You can be mad at your owner for that, but what's going to change? Well, come 2021, the players aren't missing. They're not missing any game checks. I'm sorry, they're just not going to. As much as you would love the unity and for that to happen, I highly don't think it's going to happen. So I'm wondering where they think the change is going to come from. I hope they can have this meeting and work together and get programs in each of the cities.
Well, that's what I'm talking about. I think that's what the players want. And they want the owners not just to say, listen, stand up for crying out loud and we'll do whatever you want us to, but actually do those things.
No, that's
actually
fine.
Make a commitment towards social justice.
And it was going that way.
Well, I don't know that it's going that way. Russell Okung said that they sat there and told us they were going to do stuff, but they didn't really mean it.
We just went over the article you said was this greatest article in the world about how great the meeting was on Friday. Well, you just did that Friday, and now all of a sudden we're going to the one person, Russell Okung. I brought Russell Okung up that day, and you were like, oh, look at this article. This is what went on in there. This is a great article. That it was a great meeting, that a lot of great things were done in that meeting. Didn't we just discuss that Friday?
Well, no, I think that they were all very impressed with Goodell in that meeting, but not so much with the owners. That basically Goodell is listening to them and hearing what they're saying, but the owners are not. That the owners are not at all interested in what they're saying, because the owners view them the way that Bob McNair sort of suggested. Whether you're going to take that term literally, which I think it is fair to believe he didn't mean it literally, but the figurative sense of it, which is, look, you guys just shut up and play, okay? We know what we're doing here. You guys just shut up and play, because you're a bunch of dumb athletes who don't know any better anyway. That, I think, is the way a lot of players took that comment.
Oh, no.
And I do not have any – I'm not at all surprised that they were offended by it.
All right. To me, I wasn't that offended. To me, it's a statement that's used, but as I said, write it down in the book of now politically incorrect things to say, which we seem to be building a bigger book for.
All right, well, one way or another, we don't see eye to eye on that. The one thing we can agree on is that it was a terrific game that followed with Russell Wilson and Deshaun Watson, who is, if he isn't the rookie of – I think right now he may be putting together a better season than Dak Prescott had last year.
Incredible.
In winning Rookie of the Year. And I didn't think that was possible for a rookie quarterback to do. But he has been, if nothing, more spectacular. We'll get to those. We'll get back to the baseball as we go. And can you believe what happened Saturday afternoon in Columbus? We'll try and get to the bottom of what that meant.
Let me clarify something here.
Yeah.
When I'm talking about McNair in the comments. And I understand the protests that have been going on. What Colin Kaepernick started. As I said all along, I would support my teammates for that protest that we have been talking about has been getting lost in the shuffle. Do we agree with that?
The original message.
The original message?
Yeah.
And I completely understand the players' protest for that. I completely understand the players when the president came out with his, have the SOB stand up and all that. I completely understand the players being upset about that. And my point about the McNair comment is, am I sitting there and accepting of what is now a politically incorrect statement to make, the inmates running the asylum, which is the actual term there? I guess, and as someone said, Gola clearly doesn't understand the protest. Well, which protest are we talking about? We're on our third different protest now, aren't we? For a reason to kneel, we've knelt for Colin Kaepernick in that situation, which, by the way, is, I would say, the most important of them all. Would we not agree?
Well, if you're referring to the second one, if the three that you're talking about, if I have them in order, you're talking about the second one being in response to the president.
Exactly
and
right.
And the third one now, this one being in response to McNair.
I mean, I'm sitting there saying, Golick, you don't understand the protest. Okay, I'm asking, which protest? The most important protest is what the players first started kneeling for, by far the most important. And the first thing I'm saying, Golick, you're not African-American, you don't understand. I understand what they're protesting, and I'm on their side with that. I get it. I understand. And I understand what went on after the president made his tweets going after the NFL and the NFL players, of the unity showing there. So, all right, I guess I should understand the players in their unity against not liking what Bob McNair said. As I said, I'm not, in no way, shape, or form am I chastising them for doing that at all. That's what they're doing. I'm just saying that term doesn't bug me as much as it may bug others. Now, I'm not on that team, and he didn't say it when I was there. I don't know. Would I react differently if the head of ESPN said that about all the on-air talent? I have no idea. I don't think I would. But, it hasn't happened. But the most important protest, I want to keep going back to that. That's the one we're losing sight of the most, and that's the one I hope they can recapture in these meetings with the players and the league and actually get something concrete done in this situation. They're supposed to meet today, correct? Today or tomorrow? Is that?
Well, I think that they've basically thrown that one by the wayside. They were going to meet, and now I think they aren't going to meet. Then a separate players coalition tried to create another meeting, and candidly, I don't know where the status of that is.
Well, I guess that would be my biggest point of all this. Is I hope that they meet again. To me, that's the biggest issue here. Would you not agree with that? That the biggest thing the best thing that could happen is the players and the owners and Roger Goodell get back together and talk again after that first meeting and try and get something concretely done. If they want to do it in the cities where the teams are, that's fine. To me, that's the most important thing that should be on this agenda right now.
I agree. And I think that I can't speak for the players. I think the overwhelming majority of players would agree. But I think that if you read the story on Friday, and I know you did, but for those who didn't, just quickly, there were two meetings. There was the meeting that Bob McNair was not invited to, and neither were Jerry Jones or Dan Snyder,
right,
in which the owners seemed to be respectful of the players' wishes and seemed to be giving them the impression, yes, we want to work with you on this. Right. And Goodell seemed very strongly to feel that way. And then the next day, McNair and Jones and Snyder walked walk in the room, and all of a sudden Snyder is saying, yeah, Jones gets it. 96% of Americans want them to stand. And McNair is saying we can't have the inmates running the prison.
Right.
And then the players are saying, you're saying one thing to my face and then another thing behind my back.
You know what? And you're right. You're right. Taken all together in a context, I should realize that and say it's all part of the process. And I can just pick the individual thing because I'm not involved in it. As part of the whole, I understand. As part of that whole, I would understand why they would be upset about that. I would get that.
So, do you want to move to the game then?
Yeah, sure.
So then Houston goes out there yesterday, and you wonder, how will this impact their playing? I certainly didn't think they wouldn't try to win, but with a week that had that kind of turmoil and players missing practice on Friday, what impact would it have? Oh, by the way, going to Seattle, which is a tough place to play. And this kid, Watson, is so ridiculously good. I'm going to give him the MVP moment of the weekend in a game he lost, and in a game in which he candidly might have been outplayed by Russell Wilson. You still can't. I am so impressed with Deshaun Watson. Obviously, I'm not breaking any new ground there. He's putting together numbers we've never seen from a rookie quarterback. We'll give him the MVP moment of the weekend, as brought to you by Sport Clips. Help fund scholarships for U.S. veterans. Donate to the Help a Hero program at a Sport Clips near you. That's supposed to be a good defense in Seattle. Maybe not what it was when they were the Legion of Boom, but still pretty good. And Watson shredded them through the air and on the ground yesterday. He is putting together one of the genuinely great rookie seasons that we've ever seen.
He absolutely is. He did have a pick six, had 3 picks in this game, and that's something that plagued him his last year at Clemson with 17 interceptions. But what he's able to do, not only that, but he's a threat running the ball as well. Not only running the ball, but getting outside the pocket, much like Russell Wilson. And you see what Watson is doing when he runs. It is like Russell Wilson. He knows when to get down. I mean, he doesn't try and take anybody on in a situation where if he doesn't need to. I mean, if he needs to dive for a play, he'll dive for a play. I get it, just like Russell Wilson will. But he's very good at getting what he could get and then getting down and living to fight another play. He's been fantastic.
Here's Louis Riddick with his impressions of this young superstar rookie quarterback.
I think you may be seeing one of the best dual-threat quarterbacks that maybe we've ever seen. And look, and that's a big statement. But look, Michael Vick was the guy who at one time was considered the guy who could absolutely just cut you apart with his running ability.
Change the game.
But then throw the ball a mile, and you had to defend the full 100-yard length of the football field. Well, Deshaun Watson is actually showing you now he'll beat you with his legs, but he can throw the deep ball now with tremendous accuracy in a way that people thought were coming out of Clemson he wasn't able to do.
It kind of looked like a mirror of Russell Wilson. Of Russell Wilson being able to create on the run, and he's had to with a struggling offensive line in front of him. And Deshaun Watson, in being a rookie, still can hold on to the ball too long sometimes, so puts himself in a position where he has to take off and run, and he looks good doing it.
I was going to say a mirror of Russell Wilson, except it would be one of those funhouse mirrors because he'd be stretched out.
Well, yeah, exactly.
How tall is Watson? He looks very tall.
Oh, I think he's 6'2". I don't think he's any taller.
Is that all he is?
6'2".
Maybe because he's so thin, it makes him look taller. He looks a lot taller than Russell Wilson.
Yeah.
Obviously, Wilson is small. One way or another, that was the game of the day yesterday in the afternoon. Let me take a short break here because we're getting behind. So much to get to on this incredibly busy Monday, including a comeback for the ages, one of the most significant of all time. Not just one of the great comebacks, but again, one of the most significant of all time. We'll explain why next. Rolling along on a Monday with you, Mike and Mike. 1-800-Flowers.com Twitter feed. Brett tweets, if the Dodgers don't win it this year, when will they win it? What will it take for them to get this right? I mean, look, they're playing another really good team.
They are.
It's been an incredibly close series with incredibly close games. But if you wind up losing this series and you're the Dodgers, you're going to remember that your closer, who was money in the bank, had the ball in his hands with a lead in the ninth inning of Game 2. And you're going to remember that your starting pitcher, Clayton Kershaw, one of the greats of all time, had the ball in his hands in a 4-run lead in Game 5 and couldn't hold it. Those are the two things you're going to think
You're
about.
right where you want to be right now. And I mean, that same sentence could be used now. They haven't gotten there, but with Washington, right? Which the way they're building and the expectations and many would say underachieving there. Right now, though, you just wonder. You talked about Clayton Kershaw, the starter. You talked about the Dodgers bullpen. Maybe we are now in that time of where offense is better than pitching. Right? Of the era we're in with we see all the home runs that we're seeing.
Or it's the balls. I've said it before. There's no question the ball is different. And Rick tweets it here. I didn't believe in the juiced ball until I saw Puig's home run. There's no way that ball should have gone that far. That ball, when he hit it, I did not think, I thought that the shortstop might catch it. I swear to God, I thought the shortstop. There's going to be one of those where the shortstop's going to be drifting back and the left fielder is going to be drifting in, and one of them will call the other off, and one of them will catch that ball. And the next thing you know, it's in the seats.
Yeah. I've heard more questions asked to players after the game of the same question. Did you think that was out? Did you think that was out?
I mean,
because they don't look like it when they come off the bat.
He's got one hand on the bat, and he's reaching out as far as he can. I mean, how does that thing wind up a home run? So, in my opinion, there's something different about the ball. And, again, I don't mean that in a negative way. I don't think it would be such a terrible thing.
I really wonder, do people care outside of pitchers and pitchers' families?
Well, look, I mean, in 1968, the year of the pitcher, the Major League Baseball's ERA was something insanely low, and there was no offense in the sport, and they lowered the pitcher's mound. I mean, they made an adjustment to the sport because it's not good for the sport if there is no offense.
Right.
So if they made another little adjustment here, I don't think it would be that different. They could announce it. You know what? We've decided we're going to change the ball just a little bit so that maybe they don't want the world to know that because it'll impact people's opinions on the historical significance of the standings. I don't even know of the statistics. I mean, I don't know, and I don't care. It just doesn't make any – to me, I think there are balls going out of the park that don't look like they would.
Let me ask a dumb question, which I've certainly done in the past.
Sure.
We see the baseballs right now. I bet somebody could get one.
And cut them open.
And I bet someone can get a ball from 4 years ago and actually see if there's a difference.
Well, I think it has to do with how tightly
I get
they
that.
are
Well, we've
wound.
also heard, are the seams, a
little slicker,
or not as raised, so the ball will travel further. I mean,
the story this weekend was about the ball being slicker.
Isn't that something that we could physically see and be able to tell?
You might have to do some sort of test.
No, I don't mean just. I mean, yeah. Well, I mean, again, Justin Verlander said, "Is my life is holding a baseball?" He says the ball's different.
Well, there are balls that last night there were any number of them that went out into the seats. People have them now.
Go ask a lot of fans who have them. Yeah.
Or the one dude who threw back his sister-in-law's ball. Did you see that last night?
Yes, I did.
He is now the great villain on Twitter.
Didn't she said she was going to throw it back as well?
Correct, but she should have had the ability. Let her throw the ball back. He's grabbing the ball out of her hands and he's throwing it back.
Yeah.
And that's a brother and sister-in-law, by the way.
Yeah. Ooh.
All right, let's get to Straight Talk. Mike and Mike. Straight Talk brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless. Best phones, best networks, no contracts. How about that game on Saturday? Now, I will admit, I probably watched less of Ohio State, Penn State than almost anyone else in the country because Northwestern and Michigan State were playing a triple overtime thriller.
They were. What a game for
at
your
the
boys,
same
huh?
time, and we got an incredible win. But I recognize that for the purposes of the significance of the season, the comeback win by Ohio State was the story of the weekend, and to this point, in its own way, maybe the story of the year. Right now, the Associated Press top 10 are, let me give you the top 5 anyway, are Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State, Wisconsin, Notre Dame, Clemson, Penn State, Oklahoma, Miami, TCU. It was worth going on all the way to 10 because all those are significant. In fact, even all the way to 11 with Oklahoma State. And then you finally get Washington out of the Pac-12 at 12. So those are the AP rankings. So the Ohio State come from behind win completely changes things. And now we are one day away from the first CFP rankings. So, Mike, in your opinion, let me get a quick thought from you on the comeback and then what you think it should mean.
The comeback was incredible. Twofold. One, listen, I was the one I sat here and said that I questioned two teams. Notre Dame, if they had to pass themselves into a game, because Brandon Wimbush is inexperienced with that, and J.T. Parrott, I didn't think it was, for Ohio State, was a great passer when he needed to be a passer. Now, Notre Dame didn't have to pass an awful lot. Josh Adams ran for over 200 yards against North Carolina State. And Ohio State did have to pass, and J.T. Parrott shut me up, that's for sure. 33 of 39. I mean, it was ridiculous what he did. His fourth quarter, they outscored Penn State 19-3. He was every bit as great as a Heisman winner could be because he jumped, I think, right to the head of the class.
100%.
With that, for sure. Saquon Barkley got held in check rushing here. He got held in check rushing against Indiana. And even your team, in Northwestern, held him in check a little bit as well. So I think he's slipping there. I think J.T. Barrett jumped up big time. I will say, I think, and I saw Greg Olson from the Panthers tweet this as well, and I thought as I was watching it, I thought Penn State played not to lose. I thought they were playing not to lose that one. And Ohio State took advantage of that, and they obviously were playing to win, they had to come back, and they were fantastic. And I thought Penn State did not play to win that one, but played not to lose, and all the credit in the world to Ohio State coming back and doing what they did.
And so right now, again, in the AP, Notre Dame is 5. In the coaches poll, Notre Dame is 8. I think there's a real chance that when these standings come out tomorrow night, that Notre Dame is third.
I don't think they will be. I don't know, and it doesn't matter as we'll get into. But, it's always fun to talk about these because, you have two undefeateds, Alabama and Georgia. They could play one another. Ohio State, Wisconsin undefeated. They can meet in the Big Ten championship, so someone's going to lose. So, the first ranking, to me, the four that are in, I get, but it's those first couple that are out that could be in a really, really good position as well.
The one that could matter going down the road is where Notre Dame is compared to Clemson.
Yes.
Straight Talk Wireless, nationwide coverage on America's largest and most dependable 4G LTE networks. I will stand by this. I believe if Notre Dame runs the table, they will be in the Final Four no matter what else happens. Jeff, Saturday on the way. A jam-packed last Monday of October. We continue in a moment.